I'm Brandon Weigel, the Arca manager and technical lead. I'm basically your go-to for all things related to Arca, troubleshooting, advice, ideas, requests for new features. Send it all to me. This is your orientation to the Arca Collaborative Digital Repository Service. Our goal for today is to provide a broad strokes introduction to Arca and to develop familiarity with basic Islandora vocabulary and concepts in preparation for the hands-on details you'll receive at basic training. We're going to give you an orientation to the service, including history, context, and who's involved, an overview of the benefits and responsibilities of participating in Arca, a bit of an introduction to Islandora and how Arca works, and how to get support as you work in your new repository. To begin, we'll go over just a bit of Arca's history and the context of the service. Arca was conceived in 2014 when the Tri-Agency Open Access Policy on Publications, also known as the Tri-Council Mandate, was introduced. This policy required all government-funded research to be deposited in an open access repository. BCELN presented a business case to the government to create a service that would provide our partners with individual repositories that could be connected and searched together. The Ministry of Advanced Education, as it was known at the time, provided seed funding to get us started. And working with the Arca implementation team, a group of interested parties from the BC post-secondary libraries, we sought proposals from a number of different vendors to meet our requirements. Islandora was the clear winner in terms of what the software could do for us, the cost, and the endless possibilities that were available for upgrading, modifying the platform, which we have taken much advantage of over the years. With our software selected, the implementation team designed a highly configurable theme that would serve as the basis for all of our other member sites and agreed on certain metadata standards. Once Arca was launched, the implementation team was dissolved and our current governance model was adopted. So today, Arca is governed by an advisory committee made up of representatives from different types of organization. And Arca has grown and evolved a lot since then, including adding more types of organizations from a wider geographic range and a major software migration in 2024-25. But the basic principles and structure of the service have remained consistent. So these are the partners in Arca. BCELN, that is us. Arca is coordinated by BCELN. We take care of the service overall, coordinating our partnerships, managing the infrastructure, the finances, training, frontline support, project governance, software improvements, a shoulder to cry on. All of the serious day-to-day operations are handled by BCLN. The Arca Advisory Committee is our governance committee, meets 2 to 4 times a year and makes decisions that direct the service, such as financial decisions like the service support fee, and policy decisions like who participation in Arca is open to. The advisory committee reports to the BCELN steering committee. Arca was originally conceived as a service for BCELN members only, that is, post-secondary institutions in British Columbia, but over time that has changed, so our advisory committee makeup has changed along with it. At the moment, we have 4 representative positions from BCELN, 2 BCELN member-at-large positions, and 2 member-at-large positions for Arca members outside BCELN. Simon Fraser University is our host. We are hosted by SFU Cloud Services, which is an industrial-scale cloud computing environment that serves academic, government, and commercial clients, and gives us pretty good pricing because BCLN is part of SFU. SFU have worked closely with us on our migration, and they are very supportive partners in making sure that Arca runs well and has the resources it needs. Discovery Garden is our vendor. Basically, our installation is maintained and supported by them. They're the first Islandora support company which grew out of the group that created the software at the University of PEI. They take care of the complex system-level stuff. They built our migration scripts and set up our systems, and they take care of any unusually vexing problems. Arca admins, or administrators, these are the folks that are member institutions that manage their repositories, and they are active participants in our growing Arca community. We meet occasionally to discuss the service and identify problems and opportunities and share experience and ideas. We also have a mailing list and a Mattermost server for ongoing communication. Ongoing improvements and enhancements often come out of suggestions from or problems encountered by our Arca admins. And then finally, the Islandora community. So Arca is run on Islandora, which is an open source repository software suite built on Drupal. There's a large, strong community around this open source project, which is coordinated by a nonprofit organization, the Islandora Foundation. The Islandora Foundation guides the development of the software, sets community policies, coordinates interest groups, provides community communication tools, and organizes events like the Islandora Conference and training camps. As a member of the Islandora Foundation, BCELN has a voice in our software's development and sits on the Foundation's governing committee. Arca membership, as I said, has grown a lot since it was launched. In 2015, we started with 7 post-secondary members, and over the years, we've grown not only in number, but in types of organization, with some reaching outside of British Columbia as well. We now host repositories for BC post-secondary institutions outside of BC through our agreements with COPL and NEOS consortiums, public library systems in British Columbia, organizations that have education resources, and organizations that host content from small memory institutions across the province. For example, the BC Regional Digitized History group represents an ever-growing number of museums, archives, and other small organizations in the Okanagan and Kootenay-Columbia regions. The BC Historical Digitization Program site makes public some of the many projects that have received BCHCP grant funding over the years, which until now had no online home. This collaborative model works well for institutions that can't launch and manage a repository on their own, as well as institutions that just want to be part of a larger community of practice and to combine their resources with others to make something a whole greater than the sum of its parts. A standalone repository could cost from $30,000 to $50,000 to even more each year just for licensing, compared to around $6,000 per year or less in Arca, which includes extensive comprehensive support. Several of our member institutions have very few staff, 0.2 or 0.3 of a full-time employee equivalent managing the repository, some even less than that, whereas several members have multiple staff dedicated to the repository. Our goal is to make repositories fully functional, full-service repositories acceptable for all the sites that need one. As with other BCELN services, we have a set of benefits and responsibilities that define the relationship between the Arca service and its participants. By participating in Arca, sites are able to build for the future, to coordinate digital resource management efficiently, to reinforce institution brand position and prestige, to comply with federal grant funding policies, avoid costs through centralized coordination and licensing, participate in governance, strategic planning, and service development, and access the Arca Administrative Center, including technical expertise, training, communication infrastructure, etc. But of course, the Arca service can only be as robust as its participants, and organizations have some requirements that they must meet in order to join. They must embrace the Arca vision and values, including working collaboratively with other members and adhering to our shared standards, operating in Canada and demonstrating a commitment to open access principles, and either be a BCLN partner library or meeting the membership requirements for BCELN partner libraries, belonging to a consortium that has a letter of understanding with BCELN, or being a member of a GLAM sector organization, gallery, library, archive, museum, approved by the advisory committee and able to meet the responsibilities of Arca participants. Those responsibilities are 2. Budget for and provide a yearly Arca service support fee as determined by the advisory committee. This covers standard support and 150 gigabytes of storage. Additional storage can be purchased in 500 gigabyte blocks. They must commit to maintaining their Arca website and collections. They commit to adhering to Arca's metadata standards and practices. They must designate a primary organizational contact for Arca. They must participate actively in Arca's community of practice and participate in Arca's governance as per the Arca Advisory Committee terms of reference. That doesn't require that you serve on the committee, but to respond to things and participate in advisory committee, initiatives, things like that. To ensure that appropriate rights to upload content into Arca are obtained and that content uploaded does not infringe on any copyright. To assign sufficient staff to meet the above responsibilities, and finally to advocate for Arca within their organization and report back regularly to institutions, administration, and faculty on the benefits and the impact of the Arca service at the institution. So, what do you get for your service support fee? Well, you get the Arca Admin Center, whose responsibilities include frontline troubleshooting and tech support, liaison with service provider and development community on any bugs and issues. So if you run into any trouble at all, you contact us, the Admin Center, whether that's a problem with your site, questions about processes, advice on how to manage your repository, how to structure your collections. The Admin Center provides full service. Anything we can't handle will go to Discovery Garden. In this way, we can optimize the amount of money, of the system's money that is spent on support. We have a service agreement with DGI signed off on by SFU procurement for maintenance and tech support. And because it's an open source product, that means we can build in-house expertise at the same time and work with the community. The Admin Center manages the Arca enhancement process. So if enough Arca admins are interested in an improvement or enhancement, we will investigate the possibilities and work with the development community to make it happen. Implementation support. So if you sign on with a new Arca site, we'll support you in getting it started. And ongoing service support, including communications, repository staff and administrator training, coordination of the service support fees, governance, and service provider negotiations. In order to ensure that all of our sites have equal access to the Admin Center and its support, there are two levels, basic and advanced. So basic support is most of what you're going to be needing. That's included in the support fees. That's setup of your new site, not including migration from external repositories, and staff training. Access to all documentation and training materials, basic customization of the Arca theme, frontline support and troubleshooting, and any advisory consultations. Advanced support is assessed, quoted, and charged separately and on a case-by-case basis. So that includes things like migration support for new sites from other repositories, in-depth metadata analysis or editing, transforming for batch ingests on the command line, any extraordinary support or troubleshooting that doesn't benefit the system as a whole, just your organization on its own, and requires more than around 10 hours of staff time, or if it requires special work by Discovery Garden, and if you need customized on-site training. Basically, our Arca works on a cost recovery basis, so we don't take any profit from these supports. It's just a matter of compensating for any expenditures and staff time. Now on to Arca's structure. Arca is hosted on SFU Cloud Services, which is a cloud computing platform used by a large number of computing intense organizations. And it is hosted in Burnaby on the mountain in a robust and secure data center. Each Arca repository has its own dedicated server with its own storage, its own CPU and memory, its own Solar index, its own Drupal installation and microservices. Each of these servers is behind a shared load balancer, which is a machine that directs traffic and ensures that resources can be repurposed as needed so that no one site is overworked while other sites are sitting idle. Each repository is based on the same shared code base and has a common overall structure, including the same available modules, the same theme, the same metadata schema, etc. Um, this allows us to maintain the sites together. It allows us to ensure that everything is working and no individual site is uniquely causing problems to the whole service. However, so there's a lot of commonality, but the way that these things are configured is very individual. So no two Arca sites are going to look identical, as they can customize not only the colors, fonts, and logos on their site, but also which blocks appear on which pages, the metadata fields that are shown when viewing an object, the way objects are presented, and numerous other key elements that make each site unique. While each Arca site has its own Solr index, there's the index of object metadata fields for searching. They also write to a central shared Solr index. That's the centered one at arcabc.ca, which provides an aggregated search of the entire Arca network. This makes it possible for content from every member to be discovered in a single place from a single search box, even though each organization has its own site. This means greater discoverability for all the participating organizations. The aggregator site will link out to to search results. Its search results will link out to items in their home repositories. So when a user views an item, it's always accessed within the site that hosts them and that item. And of course, that means any of your usage stats are counted. Like any view of that object is counted toward your own usage statistics. Some members, such as the BC Regional Digitized History Project, act themselves as hosts for a number of smaller organizations. By being part of Arca, their content is exposed to a much larger audience than it otherwise would be, and benefits from all of the features that we provide. The aggregator site is at arcabc.ca. Currently, our aggregator site is still running Island Aura 7. It's in queue to be migrated once some additional work is done, and when all of the Arca member site migrations are complete. However, the new aggregator site will behave similarly to the one that we have. So let's look at a sample search of Arca's content to show how it's scoped differently between sites and how search and display can be customized. If you were to search for the term monkeys, across all of Arca, there are 6,029 items about or referencing monkeys. And if you look at the sidebar on the right there, you'll see how these results come from numerous different organizations. You can also see in the sidebars of different kinds of metadata how they can be used to group and filter the results, regardless of which organization they came from. Keeping certain kinds of metadata to strict standards makes this work. For example, dates being in the right format powers the ability to facet on dates. Genres being taken from the same vocabulary means that a person looking for theses will always be able to find all of the theses in all of Arca. Keeping every site using the same terms also allows you to filter on types of object, like newspapers. You can be sure that no sites and newspapers are being left out of the results. You can customize how these results and how facets and everything are displayed as well. And in the aggregator site, we have a lot of metadata elements showing, but others might choose fewer or different ones. So if we look at the Douglas College site, you'll find that that search term for monkeys doesn't show 5,000 results, it shows 6. So there are fewer items about monkeys, but all of these 6 Douglas College items are part of that larger search result, living alongside all of the other monkey results from all the other organizations. And as I said, in the new Arca search results in arcabc.ca, link out to items in their own institutional repositories. So each usage of an item is counted within just that organization. Arca members have a lot of freedom to determine how they want to display the items and what metadata they want to prioritize. Arca sites share a common theme that was developed by Discovery Garden and approved or endorsed by the Arca membership's theming subcommittee. It is highly customizable and allows you to modify colors in many of the different areas, add your own branding, and change what actually shows up on the main page. Here you can see the generic base theme, and you can see how one of our recently migrated sites has customized that with their own logo, their materials, their own custom image, and their own colors as well. So the settings that are available to you by the theme are many and varied. I would encourage you to play with them in the sandbox before touching your own site. Search and display settings are also configurable, so you can choose which fields show up and which don't in your metadata, how your search results appear, what facets are used, and even which fields appear in your ingest forms if you like. For advanced users, you will be able to change even more about your site using Drupal blocks, module configurations, enabling and disabling modules as needed, and even overriding the theme CSS. We will provide documentation and training about theming separately. Members are free to customize their look and feel, but we do require that everyone keep the Arca footer visible to denote your site's participation in the service. There's the Arca footer, consistent between all sites. Islandora is not an individual application. It's a suite of applications that work together. The basis of the system is Drupal, an open source content management system that provides the front-end interface, user accounts, access controls, media management, and basically the overall architecture. Drupal is the framework that ties all the components together through modules, contexts, and actions. Islandora specifically is a set of Drupal modules that provide the repository functions and link them all together. Other components of the system are Solar, which is our search and indexing application. This powers the search, browse, and display, as well as facets and aggregation. When a repository item is created, the Solar index on your site is updated, and it becomes available to search. It also updates the secondary remotely hosted index on the aggregator site and makes that available for search as well. Your installation then reads only your site's index, but it writes to both of them at the same time. So your content is included in the aggregator. Solar comes pre-configured to index all of your items fields, so in theory, you shouldn't have to worry about its configuration at all. But if you find that something is missing or you have questions, you can always contact the Arca Admin Center for support. Various microservices as well are installed, like ImageMagick, which creates differently sized derivatives of images, and Tesseract, which performs optical character recognition, or OCR, on images and documents to produce a text derivative. And there are numerous others. These, with luck, are things you will never have to think about. They happen automatically in the background. And then there are various viewers, like the Mirador viewer for books and newspaper content, and OpenSeaDragon, which displays images. And the viewers display your content according to how you've classified it. So now that you have a new site, to get started, you're going to first attend the Arca basic training, or view a recording and play along in the sandbox. Then customize your site theming and branding. You'll develop and add content to your about pages and other pages you want to make. You'll create user accounts for any staff working in the repository, and then you'll begin ingesting content. Now, for all of that stuff, you will find all the documentation you need on the Arca documentation site, which you can easily access at docs.arcabc.ca. This simple, highly searchable site provides detailed documentation on working with Islandora and Arca with links to appropriate pages. And for anything you're unable to find there, just contact the Arca office. It's still new, and we're happy to help, and we're happy to write more documentation as new situations and use cases arise. And if you find something that needs correcting, besides getting in touch with us to correct it, you are even able to suggest those corrections yourself. All you will need is a GitHub account, and we'll provide some documentation on how to make those contributions separately. For any kind of help with your repository, you can contact the Arca office. That's arcaoffice@bceln.ca. We will do our best to provide any level of support that you need or connect you to the necessary resources. And beyond the Arca office, there are lots of other ways to get training, support, or advice from your fellow Islandora users. There's the Arca admins mailing list. That's arcaadmins@bceln.ca. So you and your fellow Arca admins can discuss things together, strategize, settle on sort of common approaches to things, just use each other's experience and knowledge. You can do that same thing with Mattermost, which is our open source Slack-like application for Arca admins. We have a very active Islandora Slack where worldwide Islandora community users communicate and support with each other. The Islandora Foundation, islandora.ca, which produces events like conferences and training camps and coordinates interest groups and governs the direction of the open source software's development. And then there are Islandora's GitHub repositories where issues with the software are raised, tracked, discussed, and ultimately resolved. You can engage with the community and with GitHub as the Islandora GitHub as much or as little as you want. The Arca office is very active and engaged with the software's development. And finally, an introduction to the team supporting you and your Arca repository. So Brandon Weigel, that's me. I'm the Arca manager and I'm the BCLN technical lead. When you email the Arca office, it's probably me answering you. We have Sasha Han, who works on different services through BCLN now, but she has provided a lot of support during the migration process, and she is backup support for Arca and helps out with it as required. Sasha has contributed a lot to the Arca service over the last couple of years and has strong knowledge of our metadata and site structure. So if you're hearing from someone other than me through the Arca office account, it's probably Sasha. We also have occasional student helpers who might contribute to specific projects or tasks throughout the year. So for support, just contact the Arca office email. You can also consult with your colleagues in Arca through a mailing list, chat synchronously or asynchronously on our Mattermost server, and of course we'll be there too. Thank you for viewing this orientation, and welcome to Arca.